We have all seen before a politician step in it in real time. And I think that's what you just saw. Yeah. A president who realized as he was answering, oh man, I don't really know what to say, and probably revealed a lot more than he wanted to. Because yeah, there's a lot of questions right now, and I think probably questions that are going to dog him for a while until he does clarify it. He can brush aside an NBC reporter for a moment, but there's a lot of people who care about this, and this is pretty serious stuff. This is a central figure in this case, and he's revealing here that this isn't just somebody who he knew who was a bad guy. There was like a somewhat close relationship here at a key moment, and so we've got a lot more questions we're going to get to. I don't know if anyone is in a position to get the answers out of him, but there's going to be people who are going to be pressuring him, voices that he cares about, who are going to say, "Hold on a second, we continue, sir. I want to hear more about it."
I think you have a good point there, because covering the White House, I think there's an expectation typically that the President of the United States should be forthright, should answer questions. And if we're having a conversation about power and the power dynamics, and the fact is that the man, Jeffrey Epstein, who we were talking about, he had a 15-year-plus relationship with. And in a deposition before Virginia Giuffre, we should note, and actually before we move on, she died by suicide just this spring here. In a statement from her family that I think is worth reading, in part, it said, "It is with utterly broken hearts that we announce that Virginia passed away last night at her farm in Western Australia. She lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking. Virginia was a fierce warrior in the fight against sexual abuse and sex trafficking. She was the light that lifted so many survivors. In the end, the toll of abuse is so heavy that it became unbearable for Virginia to handle its weight." That was 3 months ago here. And the president today acknowledging that this very woman, who sat for a deposition and said she worked at Mar-a-Lago for 2 to 3 weeks before Ghislaine Maxwell came to Mar-a-Lago and took her away from the spa that she was working at the age of 17. I think that this is where Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony, to wrap this all together, is so compelling. In what she told Todd Blanche. And Mary, when there's 9 hours of new testimony, if you will, from Ghislaine Maxwell, Senator Durbin, Senator Whitehouse, sending a message to the DOJ saying that they want those transcripts to be released. What if they do get their hands on those records? What would they even be able to provide to the public at large? What should the expectations be?
Well, I mean, if they get their hands on those transcripts, and I don't think they will, I don't think that the department will give them to the 2 Democratic senators who are seeking them. But they would, have an obligation to redact victim names. They should, frankly, redact the names of people who she accuses, if these were people who have never been charged with any crime and never had a chance to go publicly and defend themselves. Congress doesn't always abide by these types of rules, and there's lots of leaks from Congress, so I would be worried about those things. Certainly any records that the department would ever release or that a court would ever release, and I want to be clear, I don't think there's any chance the courts are going to agree with the Department of Justice's motion to release grand jury transcripts. There's no legal showing made to do so in this case. This is all just about politics and the public's interested, but that's not an exception to grand jury secrecy. But if they were, these are things that would have to be redacted. So, I think whatever might eventually make its way to Congress still will probably, whatever could be released will be unsatisfying to the public.
And speaking of Ghislaine Maxwell, again, who the president has reminded us on now 2 occasions that he does have the ability to pardon her. This is, to your point, this is what Virginia Giuffre had to say about Ghislaine Maxwell in a 2019 interview on Dateline with Savannah Guthrie about her first encounter with Miss Maxwell. Take a listen.
I get approached by this beautiful, well-spoken, well-mannered woman with an English accent, prim and proper. And she says, "It's so funny that you're reading a book on that, because I know this older gentleman who's looking for a traveling masseuse. He's super rich, he flies around everywhere."
Did she say her name?
She told me her name was Ghislaine Maxwell. And she said, if you're interested, you can come by the house tonight and go for an interview.
And what did you say?
Of course I said yes. I was excited. I mean, I told her, I was like, "I have no training." "Don't worry about it," she said. "He's got amazing abilities to help people out."
Ghislaine Maxwell, Brendan, I think it's always important to remind people that she was like the chief recruiter for Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking. It's what she's sitting in jail for right now. And I don't understand how so many Christian conservative, especially elected officials, are contorting themselves to still give cover for Trump on this. Like, if there's anything it might be okay with separating with him on, is like no cover for the lady that helped traffic young girls.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I think Donald Trump is smart enough to know that he can't give this woman apart. I really don't think that he's going to do that. I think what's going on here is they are in crisis mode. They don't know what to do at this point. And so they are trying to pull on every string they can to figure out something to point to make this sort of feel better or go away. Maybe have a conversation with her. Maybe she'll say something that's useful. They're clearly just sort of running interference at this point. I think it is a big mistake to suggest they have a plan here, or that even Todd Blanche, who I think is, a decent attorney here, really knows a way out of this. Because this is a political problem that can't be solved. As Mary said, there's nothing that they can release that is going to satisfy people. It's important to remember the conspiracy here among a lot of people on the right is there was a sex predator ring of not just elites, but Democratic donors. And until that is proven true, people are going to continue to be unsatisfied, no matter what is released. And so they're trying everything they can. They're going to try to run out the clock. I hope that he knows better than to provide a pardon there, because I think there's a lot of people who have swift blowback if he went down that road.